Mixing with my mixing tip. Mixing with the LCR approach. The LCR approach to mixing is one whereby you take anything element that you have in the mix, and it's either panned left, center, or right. And if you have stereo image material, most of the time it's just spread hard left and right, regardless of how the imaging appears in the actual mix. So why would you want to do something like this? It actually is a very common technique, and you hear it in a lot of mixes. If you really focus on a mix, and it works probably best when you listen, you could get it with headphones as well, but when you listen with speakers and you only hear information in the center, in the left speaker, or in the right speaker, then you know you have a classic LCR mix. And a lot of mix engineers work this way. So the idea is that while you are basically condensing the center information, left information, and right information, so what's coming from there may have different textures and different sounds, but you don't necessarily have the ability to get as much depth. What you have in the in-between spaces between the center information and the left and right information is an amazing space for effects and reverbs that can actually create a lot of really unique depth. So here, I'm going to take a mix that you've probably heard too much at this point, and this mix is not an LCR mix. So I want to kind of go through this sort of instrument by instrument at a time and see if we can kind of put together this really quickly. So actually, let me play you the mix as it is, or at least a little bit of it, and then let's just hear it. So when we listen to things, we have, these two guitars, which are kind of panned, not totally, not hard left and right. Vocal is center. Drums are not hard wide. Keyboards are kind of towed in a little bit. And then as we have some other guitars which are panned hard and left, you can get a sense that sitting here waiting by the phone. Talk to me, baby. I don't wanna be wrong. Talk to me, baby. So what we have is the instrumentation sort of spread across the stereo field. And, during the chorus section, some guitars come in that go wide left and right, and you get a spread. So let's start by stripping this basically down and turning this into an LCR mix. I won't be able to do a quick A-B comparison, but we can take a listen to this to get an idea. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little save as here and put a little -2 on that at the end so I can preserve my original. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by working with the drums. Now, if I do it this way, then what I'll want to do is I'll want to spread my toms and hi-hat and overheads hard left and right. Remember, that's kind of the basic rule. Right, so now that tom goes hard left and right, so this is where we were. And now I'm going to add in some of the guitars. And I'm going to balance these guys off. So the drums are in the middle. The bass is in the middle, so that's pretty straightforward. I will be waiting for you to come on home. Got background vocals. And we also have some keys. So let's see what the keys here. I believe the keys come in the sex chorus. So this is panned over here. I'm going to put it right in the middle. Now this may or may not jump back down because of the automation, which it doesn't. So I'm going to have to adjust some levels and some sounds. And then I got the guitar solo, which is in the middle. And those are panned hard left and right already. Now, there's a couple ways to work this. So one way is to keep the drums spread wide open, just like I had them. So let's listen to the mix a little bit more from the beginning and get a perspective on a couple of different options of the way that you can do this. But what I want you to really notice is now there's a spacing between the center information and the left and right information, and this kind of creates room for some of the reverberant energy and some of the other things that are occurring in the mix to really stand out. Now, actually I missed the end keys here, which are going to need to be spread wide left and right. Now, this is not a foolproof thing, and it's just like to change the panning scheme in a mix that's already finished the way I had it laid out. There's going to be some things that are not necessarily going to translate, or I might need to approach processing the sounds in a slightly different way, because now essentially what I'm doing for a lot of the center information is I'm merging a little bit more of the sound. So I might make the bass and the drums sound a little bit more together and less isolated or separate from each other, okay, depending upon the way that I do this. Now, because I pan the drums hard left and right, with the toms and the hi-hats and everything, that may not be necessary. So let's listen to this as it is.
There's music in your voice, a song so soft and sweet that I had no choice. My love, I'm praying for a whisper in my ear, just a sound to make it clear. So I'm sitting here waiting by the phone. Talk to me, baby, I don't wanna be wrong. Talk to me, baby, what's the use in taking so long? I will be waiting for you to come on home.
Okay, so we have a basic idea. The other approach is to mono up the drums. So now the drums are all centered. Now this is going to increase gain, in particular on the overheads and on some of the things, because when you pan something, like you take two signals that are hard left and right, it'll have a certain volume, you move them to the center, and they're now localized. They're going to sound more dense and more focused. So let's listen to this.
There's music in your voice, a song so soft and sweet that I had no choice. My love, I'm praying for a whisper in my ear, just a sound to make it clear. So I'm sitting here waiting by the phone. Talk to me, baby, I don't wanna be wrong. Talk to me, baby, what's the use in taking so long? I will be waiting for you to come on home. So talk to me, baby, tell me that I'm not alone. My heart is open wide.
So you can hear now how that makes the drums really focused and really tight in the middle. And actually, to me, it sounds a lot better. It's kind of cool the way that it takes and, kind of focuses things in that middle. And the mix actually surprisingly holds together pretty well, considering that, now there are a lot of things that are trying to occupy the same left-right pan position, and getting all those to work together. So that's a good sign, because it means that some of the depth characteristics that I set up with the early reflections and effects and the other processing, EQ and compression, have, held together somewhat. It also, I really love the way that it focuses the snare drum, kind of gives it a little bit of more of a punchy kind of thing. Makes it more focused. I also like the toms in the middle. So it's kind of a cool thing. Now, what I could probably do on this end would probably be to raise the guitars up overall and kind of, work from that perspective, just to kind of, because now there's less stuff in the side information. So if I now take the guitars and I kind of raise those up in level a little bit,
There's music in your voice.
and then that also raises the bass level a little bit, so I'm going to pull that back, which I won't be able to do from there.
I'm praying for a whisper in my ear, just a sound to make it clear. So I'm sitting here waiting by the phone. Talk to me, baby, I don't wanna be wrong. Talk to me, baby, what's the use in taking so long? I will be waiting for you to come on home. So talk to me, baby, tell me that I'm not alone. My heart is open wide, and in the safety of my arms you.
So in a way, that's actually really cool. Just raising up the guitars there, really a couple of dB, really opens up. Actually, it's a 1.4 dB to be exact. And I tried to back off the drums a little bit. I ended up right back where I was. No, I didn't. Minus 0.1 dB, not a lot. And I backed off the bass a little bit because it's in the guitar mix. So what happens though, I can make the guitars louder now because there's less information there, and the center was more focused. So I'm sort of doing a like a MS kind of thing, or raise the side, and it's kind of cool. It has like a really cool effect. It allows those guitars to be a little bit more isolated on their own, and I can make them a little bit more powerful. And the drums are sort of focused and centered, so they're not as widespread. It's not as open sounding, but again, it's more focused. You see this a lot in a lot of alternative rock kind of productions, especially a lot of more of the modern, alt rock or just alternative stuff. You also see this in a lot of more electronic music as well, where you get this sort of focused, it's like either here, there, or there. This is left, center, or right. And then when you put in those effects and those delay things, it just has a place to go where you can actually hear it, and you end up having to put less of it in there. So it's a really cool approach, something you may want to consider working with a mix. And if you kind of work with it early on and you get a vibe for it, you might decide that it's a really good approach to take. And it requires a little bit extra attention with some of the processing, especially for the center information, because you got a lot more to get to kind of work together. But if you can focus that in and get that to work, you can get some really, really, really cool effects out of it for the mix. So there you have it. There is our mixing technique of the week, mixing with the LCR approach.